and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. I'm your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me, as always, is Brian Twining. And Brian Twining, we figured we'd switch it up just a little bit, make it give you guys a little bit more, make it a little more exciting. So we are going to, as long as there's Saturday games, we'll be here in your feed on Wednesdays. Breaking down the Thursday game and then the two Saturday games, and then obviously we'll be back on Fridays to talk about the rest of the weekend's action. Obviously, if there's a number that jumps out to us, we'll let you know about it in case you need to get on it early.
And with all this code stuff, just look out
for
lines moving drastically.
It is insane. I'm not really sure. Like, it's hard. I'm almost like, at this point, if the COVID tests the COVID, results or whatever you want to call them keep popping up, I'm just like, granted, I might miss out on the best of the number and be a little frustrated come Sunday, but like the feeling of knowing I am not going to also get screwed by a number is probably worth that. I know some books have given people the option to be able to buy out, but sometimes when the number moves aggressively, they don't that option kind of gets to go away. So
yeah.
But yeah, so we're gonna break down the Thursday and the two Saturday games. We'll be back on Friday to break down the rest of the slate. But Brian, before we do that, we gotta talk. There's a couple things. Obviously, we'll hit. Let's talk bets from last week. A very average 6-6 week for me. I'm going to need you to not let me bet the Cleveland Browns anymore. They were up 24-6.
What? They literally browned the sheet
favorite against a Ravens team that was completely battered with injuries and lost Lamar Jackson and was unable to cover. They scored 0 points in the second half and won by 2.
Yeah.
I am like, if you're gonna play that badly, like, do it from the beginning. Don't give me this, like, I thought I had a rocking chair win. I thought, man, this goes for my whole betting card on Sunday, by the way. I was looking at my app and it was just green everywhere, and I was like, this is awesome. I'm so happy I made these bets and everything is great. And then within the last 7 minutes of the games, it just everything. It was awful.
Well, I mean, I think the worst one for you this past weekend had to have been Buffalo making that comeback down by 3, driving to either win or potentially go for it and not get it. Like, the cover was there, and then all they needed to do in overtime was just not give up a long touchdown. And what'd they do?
So is Buffalo good or are they broken? Like, I literally don't know, because
honestly,
I want to say they're, like, obviously if you look at the final score pushing the Bucks to overtime, you think good, but they were getting their ass handed to them on a silver platter a week after an absolute, obviously it's hard to take anything against the Patriots in that 50-mile-an-hour win seriously, but like, this is, I don't know what to do.
I honestly feel like, coming out of halftime, the Bills team that we saw in the second half going into overtime is the Buffalo team that we kind of expected to be getting all year long. So I do think that they're still, like, they're recovering and getting back to that dominant style of football that we think they can play at. Now, that being said, going into this week, not to look too far forward, but Josh Allen is now dealing with a foot injury, so we don't know what that team is going to look like going forward. So
yeah. For a team that's already having issues and not looking great, to be without Josh Allen, that would be a lot. Shouts to the 49ers, who somehow almost blew it, yet ended up getting the cover in overtime. Appreciate y'all. I had a teaser with the over in that game, and thanks to Joe Burrow getting that game-tying touchdown and then getting a field goal and then the Niners winning, I actually hit that. I thought I was just praying for a push at that point, but to actually get that was nice. I I don't know. Like I bet the second half under in New Orleans and the Jets, and that it was 20 and they got 23. I don't know.
Uh,
New Orleans apparently found the fountain of youth, and I keep lining up to bet Cam Newton, and I just keep ending up with egg on
oh
my
man,
face.
I gotta say, I fell victim to that game this week too. I play in a season long pool where we choose every game each week against the spread, and I'm like 6 games ahead of everyone else right now. But if it wasn't for me choosing Carolina, that was a huge swing game in this week's thing. I would have won the pot this weekend, and I don't just like you. I don't know why I continue to think that this is Cam from even 3 years ago where he's not
Yeah.
going to make a ton of mistakes and this defense is
Well, and I thought
supposedly
like, okay,
better
you're
than it
firing
is.
Joe
Like,
Brady because they're throwing too much or something, so you're going to run the hell out of the ball, and Atlanta can't block anybody, so get
yeah,
pressure on Matt Ryan, and he turns into a pumpkin, and I don't. Carolina's just I don't know what's going on there. I'm wondering if Matt Rule is actually a terrible coach, and I'm kind of
I think
giving him.
I think there's a distinct possibility that you could see some pretty big turnover
And then I
on the
bet
coaching
the
side
second
there.
half under in Seattle, Houston, which came through. But shouts to Houston for just doing nothing, and for Seattle scoring 17 points in the second half. I had a nice little Houston plus 15 and a half and the under at 47, and I couldn't get that to come through. It was so anyway. So rough week,
It
as I
was
mentioned, 6-6. I did hit some props though. I had Cole Beasley over, Rob Gronkowski over, Marquise Brown over, receiving receptions, and Devonta Freeman. So and had a nice little week in DraftKings thanks to that Josh Allen comeback, and got about 7 times my money. So I'm not gonna
ooh,
complain.
nice. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a season. I'm learning DFS as I go, and it's kind of like you have to really trick yourself into not getting too obsessed with your current rosters and your current
Yes.
squads. You had yourself a week. Your Dallas Cowboys, one of my favorite games that I
Oh,
just did not bet, mainly because
what were they doing
I
though?
waited too long to get to that number. Yeah, I mean, they were trying to give it back too, but luckily Washington is pretty inept.
I
The
will
under
say, I
43 was cash money there. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say in that Cowboys game when even though I got it at 4 when I bet it, the closing line was 6.5.
Yeah,
So when
that's why I
Washington missed
didn't
that
bet it.
extra
I was
point, man, woo!
yeah. The Jets team total under, the Lions team total under.
And that Lions team total under, there was a couple of times late in that fourth quarter that was severely threatened, and
Yeah,
Denver's defense showed up big time
yeah.
to keep that in line.
You hit your teaser. Shouts to my Titans. Shouts to the Seahawks. Lions, Broncos under, and
I
the
pushed.
Rams.
Yeah, the Rams, they were actually one of the few dogs that I was actually on this week in terms of looking at them from the money line as we got closer to the game, just because it started to get bigger and bigger and bigger with the news that Ramsey and
Yeah,
Higbee were out. So it was one of those like hedging kind of bets because I thought early in the week, Arizona minus the 2 under a field goal was the side. And then as it got so inflated, it was like,
yeah.
oh, this is a good
Arizona
number.
blew it last night. They had so many red zone trips.
Yeah.
Settling for 2 field goals. DeAndre Hopkins dropped first one in 23 games.
And then what
Um,
the hell was Kyler Murray doing in that when they were trying to make the comeback? Like, why is he hurrying up to run another play when you know you should be spiking the ball? Even the receivers didn't even run a route.
yeah,
Like,
and then they had to rush the kicker on with like 30 seconds. I don't know if I
ridiculous.
necessarily like Greasy was saying to kick the field goal from like 55 or whatever with like 5 minutes to go. It felt like a little bit of a chase at that point, but I don't know. I'm not really sure. Cooper Cup is incredible, and
Dude,
we'll have to talk fantasy
Cooper
and
Cup killed me this week in
do some
fantasy, by the
recap
way.
pods after this because I made some dumb decisions coming in the season. We have to figure out where he's going to get drafted next year because I feel like it'll be high.
Really high.
And shouts to the troops, Army, Navy, under scored I think it was 14 points or 17 points in the first quarter,
17 points in the first quarter.
and still went under 37 or whatever.
Yeah.
I live bet that I think 3 or 4 times, and I hit all of them. It was glorious. I wish I had one more bullet in the chamber. And I'm like, nah, I'll hold it. Wish I'd pulled that, but I gave a lot of it back on Sunday. So neither here nor there. So let's jump in. We got 3 games to discuss. As I mentioned, we'll start on the Thursday night game, and we'll talk about the LA Chargers plus is it still 4? Let me double check the number. I made these all last night, so if they're off a little bit, that's on me. Oh, we got a 3. We're pretty much 3 across the board, which is
Yep.
24 hours. That's the number. I mean, you're getting plus money at a lot of places on the 3. The Chargers are obviously the home team, but the Chargers also won in Kansas City. Brian, what's your read on this game, and do you think there's any potential value?
I mean, anytime you can get a home dog on a Thursday night game where they're not having to do any travel, obviously there's going to be value. This game is another instance that's going to be heavily impacted by COVID, with Josh Gordon going on the list today, Chris Jones, superstar defensive tackle for the Chiefs, going on the COVID list. The Chargers activated Keenan Allen off of COVID, but they're going to be without their starting left tackle in all likelihood. So in a divisional matchup like this, we've seen the Chargers play really well against Kansas City too, since Herbert's been there over the last 2 years. So I like the Chargers with the points. I don't know if I can get to them on the money line just yet, just with the way that Kansas City's defense has been playing.
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical of what the Chargers will be able to do on the offensive side of the ball, but I do think this will be a close game.
Yeah, it's interesting because like the Raiders just decide they're going to play their coverage against the Chiefs, despite every other team playing cover 2 and absolutely shutting down the Chiefs offense, and they're just letting them get obliterated.
Well, I think the pregame shenanigans of them going to the Chiefs logo and thinking they're all Terrell Owens bouncing on the Chiefs logo was a sign of things to come.
Yeah, that's a great point as well.
Yeah, that was not good.
No, that's not what you're looking for. But this is a Chiefs team that's a little bit banged up. Tyreek Hill took a big shot on Sunday. I just I have a hard time with the Chargers because I feel like they're a rug pull team, and as soon as you feel like, okay, they look great against the Giants who stink, and they already went to Kansas City and got the massive win, so this is a big rebound spot for the Chiefs. They seem to be trending in the right direction. If you could have got the 4, I think that makes sense. I think at 3 it becomes a lot more of an interesting number. We also have a total sitting at 51.5, 52. Like, we'll see. Like, obviously Josh Palmer and Jalen Guyton were running free against the Giants secondary, and maybe we get Keenan Allen back, but do you think there's a chance that maybe this is a little bit more of a lower scoring game and the number might be a little inflated based on 2 offenses that had an amazing week against really bad defenses?
Oh, man, I honestly, with the way that this season has gone, this is one of those games where it could be either way. You could see both of these defenses show up big time and limit what the opposing teams are going to do, or neither of them show up and this is a quarterback shootout from the get. Like, I do see a scenario where the Chargers are able to get to Mahomes, put a lot of pressure on him, keep them from scoring the 30 that they've been doing over the last couple of weeks, and this game is played in the mid 40s. But I can also see a situation with Kansas City now that they have a fully healthy backfield where they're using Darrell Williams as a pass catcher. Clyde Edwards-Helaire looks fully healthy. Tyreek Hill hasn't even really blown up yet, and Travis Kelce's been underutilized to where they really just air it out against this Chargers team, and they, put up a 40 spot like they did against the Raiders. I would lean taking the under here for the Chargers to be able to win this matchup, but this is Kansas City we're talking about. So
Yeah, I don't hate like a teaser here, especially with the Chargers at 3, getting them up to 10 with a full 7-point tease. Even 6 would be 9, but I'd like to get through the 3, through the 7, and all the way up to 10, and then tease. I'm not sure which way I would tease it. I kind of like both, honestly. You take that 52, you add 7 points. Now you have the under at 59.
yeah, you
But
could
you
middle
also
this.
do it the other way and get the over
Yep.
at 45 and try middle that.
I love that.
And then you get like shoot for around 48 points. And then the Chargers do Charger things and end up blowing it and losing by 3 or 4 points.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you have yourself a nice little Thursday night tease that cashes double and set yourself up for a nice little weekend of betting. So if I was betting this game, I would look at that. Patrick Mahomes' rushing prop has actually come down a little bit too. It's 18.5 for rushing yards. 20 yards last week. Obviously hasn't been the same guy we saw since the middle of the season, but at just under 20 yards, I think that's a spot I could potentially see myself getting to. CEH did not come through in a big way, although he did score 2 touchdowns, and from a DFS point was great. 51.5 yards from him there. Herbert 16.5. Not sure I can get there either, but not a ton of prop options this early in the week. Obviously, if we find stuff between now and Thursday, we'll try and tweet it out. And then if we have any additions for the Saturday games, we'll have it for you on Friday. But we wanted to get there and get you some good numbers before the window. Herbert, let's see, the last 5 games, 14, 22, 90, 36, 6, and 19. I guess that's 6 games. And his prop is set at 16.5. That's kind of interesting. Let me look at what our friends Kansas City, especially as you mentioned, Chris Jones is going to be out. Maybe there's a few more opportunities to find a little wiggle room and get out for a nice long run against Kansas City.
Well, especially too, if Chris Jones is out, that leaves a gaping hole in the middle, and they're still going to have Frank Clark and former Charger Melvin Gordon coming off the outside. So
Yep. Teddy ran for 17 yards 2 weeks ago. Derek Carr 18 yards in week 10. Jordan Love 23. Daniel Jones 12. Obviously early in the season when 59 for Josh Allen, 47 for Jalen Hurts. So this team can be ran on. And what did he do in the first? He had 16 rushing yards in the first matchup. I think both both quarterback rushing props are well within the range. We'll see who is available. There's, obviously they're not releasing a lot of stuff because, we don't know who's going to be available for the Chargers. CEH, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill props are out, but nothing.
I was just going to say for CEH, one of the props that I'm kind of on right now is his receiving yards prop is set at 11.5, and he's gone over that in 3 of the last 4 games. And then when you look at his receptions, it's set at 2.5. He has 3. Each of the last 2 games are starting to utilize him more, and going up against the Chargers pass rush that likes to get to the quarterback really fast. The way you take advantage of that is by utilizing the back out of the backfield and screens and such. So I like Edwards-Helaire. His total yards prop, I think, is set at 67.5. I like that to go over. He'll probably do that just rushing. I mean, the Chargers' rush defense is still the worst in the NFL just because the Giants can't do it.
Yeah.
The Giants suck.
Yeah.
So I love Clyde Edwards-Helaire's rushing prop, which means I like his total yards prop because it'll be.
The Darrell Williams touchdown was a big problem for me in hitting the over. That little screen. So I do worry that he gets a little too much usage, but I'm with you. I think all those kind of make some sense. Let's head over to Saturday and we'll start with the earlier game, and that's the Cleveland Browns. Where did I get these numbers from? That can't be right. Did it open at 6?
It did open at 6.
Wow. This number has plummeted, people. It was 6 yesterday. It is now Browns -3. Is there
COVID?
They're getting beaten by COVID, huh?
Let me tell you, Austin Hooper, Jarvis Landry, Wyatt Teller, Jedrick Willis. So that's 2/5 of the Browns' offensive line, both starting tackles. The last remaining tight ends and their number 1 wide receiver just got put on COVID today.
All right. Well, it looks like we're betting the Raiders, huh? A beaten offense. I know the Raiders aren't great, but a beaten offensive line for a team that needs to run the ball to be effective and Baker is absolutely not the answer against Max Crosby, and unless you tell me like the Raiders pass rush isn't going to be there, I think this is a great spot for Vegas.
Honestly, I'm letting this creep down. Hopefully this will go under 3, and I'm going to take the Browns. I cannot buy into the Raiders. They seemingly have punted on the season. They have like no more gas. Darren
Brian,
Waller.
what did we
I don't
talk
think
about
Darren Waller is going to play anymore.
less than like 15 minutes ago? You can't let me bet the Browns, and here you are going, bet the Browns.
I know, but this is a spot to me where everyone is screaming, "Oh, Raiders, Raiders, Raiders." This is their comeback, and it's going to be the undermanned Browns that muddy up this game. The total's down to 40. Yes, they're going to be without their tackles, but the interior of their offensive line is still good. The Raiders' interior of their defensive line is not the best. So I do think that he could still be ran on. And, with Nick Chubb back there, he's going to probably see 25 to 28 touches. Like, this is going to be a spot where it's going to be like a Thursday night game, 17-13. And I just don't trust the Raiders.
The NFL has Shefty.
I don't trust the Browns either, but
Shefty just tweeted out that there's 75 players who have tested positive for COVID in the last 2 days.
yes.
It's insane.
And there's going to be more probably.
Is there a chance we get some players back for this, or are they're because of the Saturday game they're toast at this point?
Apparently, as long as if they're fully vaccinated, all they need is 2 negative tests in a 24-hour period. But it cannot.
So we might be able to get a decent number betting the Browns at 3. And then all of a sudden by game time, we're looking at 4.5 or maybe even all the way back up to 6.
Yeah, like if Cleveland gets those 2 tackles back, I don't really care who's playing wide receiver for them, and they're able to just push around the Raiders' run defense. Like, I just don't think that.
Yeah, I mean, because like 80% of that game against Baltimore, they should have. I mean, but
they should have destroyed them. Absolutely, yeah. That game should have been a
maybe that's why we're getting such a good number at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Go Browns.
But it goes to show you, though, too, like, which coaching staff do you trust more, John Harbaugh in Baltimore or this Raiders coaching staff that's done by an interim guy? Like,
it's not the staff they got in Vegas. I can tell you.
Yeah,
that.
Exactly. So I mean, that just goes to show you, like, if Cleveland was still basically a 3-point favorite against Baltimore, they definitely deserve to be a 3-point favorite against the Raiders, even without all their starters.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Let's go to the final game of the Saturday slate, and we'll talk
Your favorite
about
team in the NFL.
What is this line moved like 70 points now? Hey, it's actually at 2. How about that? The Colts being a favorite here, I was kind of impressed by. It's actually 2.5 in a lot of books.
Yeah.
I gotta keep it going, Brian. I can't do it. The Patriots are not a good football team. Like, that's aggressive. That's absurd. I know. They're not the football team that we have seen the past 7 weeks. And if the Bills had pulled their head out of their ass and played some hurry up when they had the win behind them,
agreed.
I think they win, and I think they win pretty.
Well, considering how many times Buffalo got the ball within close to the red zone.
Yeah, like, I mean, the Patriots were like inside their own 10, and Buffalo's like on the other side of midfield, and they're not go. I don't know what happened to Daboll. I don't know if Josh Allen. Obviously, there was some concern there with that offense, but I think the Colts are really kind of a scary team that could go in and scare some teams in the playoffs. Jonathan Taylor is an absolute monster. The offensive line is playing absolutely terrific, and the defense is coming together. And this is a home team. You're getting less than a field goal against a Patriots team that I can't buy into. Sign me up all day.
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because I'm the opposite of you with the Patriots. Like, I love what they're doing, but that said, the Colts are one of my favorite sides this week. I think that this is a very undervalued line right here, as the Colts started off so poorly. It's Carson Wentz. Everybody just kind of thinks, oh, it's Carson Wentz, he's going to F it up. But I mean, this team is on a roll right now. They finally figured out that Jonathan Taylor needs to be the centerpiece of this offense and then let Carson Wentz play off of that. You're seeing them get other guys involved in the passing game. I mean, it's like Austin Dublin and, Mo Alley Cox is finally starting to show out a little bit. Like, I really think that this Colts team is going to put their foot down here and really show like they are a dangerous team come playoff time, especially too. They're getting Ryan Kelly back this week. They're starting center to go along with the rest of that ridiculous offensive line. And, coming off a bye, they're going to be fairly healthy. So I like the Colts here pretty heavily. I mean, to me, it was something that caught my eye immediately.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we're on the same page. The under is a tidy 45.5, 46, depending on where you look. And the under is getting a lot of action. Obviously, it's still really early in the week. Like, looking at some numbers, like the Chiefs Chargers has about 6,000 bets per Action Network. I'm not sure which book they're pulling from. Browns Raiders is about 3,000, and then the Colts Pats is a little under 6. And majority of the money is on the Colts at 78%, where 41% of the bets, and 95% of the money and 33% of the bets is on the under. So, 45.
I will say, surprisingly, I kind of like the over here because Indy has shown they like to take their deep shots.
Yeah.
And I do think that
and they don't mind pushing. I just worry with New England that if the game starts to get away from a little bit, they'll get super conservative and try and take the air out of the ball a little bit more, and a chance to kind of keep the Colts offense on the sidelines and get their team back in the game.
Yeah, but I can definitely see that. But I also think that this is a prime spot where you could see both defenses score a touchdown here, as Carson Wentz likes to hold the ball.
Yeah.
And then, Mac Jones, he hasn't really been put under a ton of pressure the last few weeks, and Indy's going to do that.
Yeah, and this might be a spot too where you look at the Patriots and the over on a tease, and you get to like 38.5 and plus, plus 9, plus 9.5. That could make some sense too. I don't love getting crazy with teasers, but there is potential. I think 2 to 3 is kind of my max, but with the Chargers or the over, and then kind of taking this game, and I think there's opportunity there on some teaser cards. I don't love it, but I think it makes a lot of sense. All right, Brian, we've covered the 3. We'll be back, as I mentioned, on Friday with the rest of the weekend slate. Is there any lines that jumped out for you before we give our best bet for these 3 games? Any numbers that really garnered your attention? The Texans being an underdog against Jacksonville is kind of mind-boggling to me. Like, I know
Houston's offense does not look terrible.
Yeah, no, they were able to move the ball, especially in that first half against Seattle. Brandon Cooks had a nice little game. David Johnson being out, I think, actually helps them because then they don't think he's like an all-star. The Bills are 10-point favorites, 10.5-point favorites. The Panthers have quit, so I mean that could be a thing, but I don't know. There's some interesting numbers. Anything jumping out to you?
Your Titans in Pittsburgh as a 2-point favorite.
How do we feel about that?
Like,
I texted my Titans friend that I was a little nervous about that.
It's hard because the Titans are like, who the F are they playing? Like who do they have on offense? That's kind of the way you look at this team, but they just keep winning. And Pittsburgh is Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, first half during Thursday, they were non-existent. And then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, it's, Ben Roethlisberger from 2016 shows up. So I don't know what to think from that game. Like,
I bet Chase Claypool under on his receiving yards, and had that for 4.5 quarters until the final drive when he decided to put up 60 yards and get to like 90 something on the day.
Right.
And thankfully Fireman dropped that touchdown, or else I would have gone over and really been hating life. But there's some interesting numbers. I'm not sure I'm ready to jump on the table for anything yet.
No, there's not a lot because there's some big numbers for road favorites this week.
Yeah, the Rams being a touchdown favorite against Seattle is not something I thought I would see, but wow.
I will also say if you like Green Bay this week, I would probably, man, it's at 5.5 right
I
now.
feel like that number has no Lamar baked into it though. So like if you
Well,
like Baltimore and you think Lamar's going to play, you get on that now.
Well, I was just gonna say because they've already come out and said that they're planning on him starting. That's
Lamar
their
is?
plan right now. Yeah, that's their plan. Nothing's guaranteed, so I don't know where this line sits as it factors in as we go along the week. I do think it goes down a little bit if he's in there. So if you like
I think it's
Baltimore, you probably take it now.
3.5. Yeah, that's interesting. The Lions getting 13.5 at home against Arizona is interesting.
What about the Rams? 6.5-point favorite at home against Seattle. Like, are we buying into what the Rams did last night, or?
Well, and it's weird though because like some of the offshores are showing -7, but then like BetMGM and DK and FanDuel are showing 4.5. That's quite the spread. That means I don't know. That's interesting.
That's got to be the COVID stuff baked into it too, because Odell got placed on COVID today.
Yeah, and Ramsey but they have Cooper Kupp. They'll just throw him the ball 37 times and he'll be an absolute monster. Okay, well, we'll be back on Friday to break down all those games, give you our thoughts. We'll find some props. We'll do all that good stuff. But Brian, do you have a best bet for Thursday or the 2 Saturday games?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with a player prop this week or for these 3 games, and I'm going to go out on the limb and say my best bet for these 3 games is Clyde Edwards-Helaire receiving yards over 11.5.
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going to take the Colts minus the 2. I will say 2.5 because that's the number that's pretty much across the board. I think they're the better team. I think they win by a field goal. And I'm very happy as a Titans fan that, it's a long way, but they have, a couple game lead and one in hand from the winning the 2 games. So it could have gotten a lot uglier. And then all of a sudden we're looking at, scratching and clawing for a wild card. Although I will say, Brian, and we can talk about more on this on Friday. I made 2 futures bets on Saturday, I think. I bet the Tennessee Titans at 22-1 to win the Super Bowl. I bet the San Francisco 49ers at 45-1 before their game against Cincinnati. And it is now 25-1. So I'm feeling pretty good about those 2 bets. But we should look at the Super Bowl odds and see if there's any numbers that are still lingering, because this year, unlike others, feels really wide open. And you tell me like 12 teams won, and I wouldn't think it's crazy.
I will say though, for me, going as we hit this stretch run here, I fully am expecting and am not going to be surprised if we get a rematch of last year's Super Bowl and it's Tampa Bay and Kansas City once again.
Oh yeah, no, that
was my pick at the beginning of this season.
I mean, we could and we told people to bet the Chiefs when they were stinking because that was the one that made the most sense. And now they're 5-1 along with Tampa. I think there's a world where we go, this NFL season is so open, any team can win. And then
it's really
the end of the year, it's just the same teams that we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Arizona at 10-1, I think makes sense even off a loss. The Rams, I don't know that I trust the Rams, but
I just don't know what to think about them, man.
Niners at 35 on DK. That's kind of interesting. I don't know that I trust the Chargers to win that many games in a row. Yeah, I think there's probably 3-6.
How do you feel about Buffalo right now? Like what?
I mean, I'm still absurdly positive on that team. I don't know why. Like, if Josh Allen's broken and that defense isn't as good, then maybe I'm, trying to grasp at something that's not there. But I think, obviously they're 12-1 to win the Super Bowl. I think that's an interesting number. I think your Dallas Cowboys at 12-1 if they can get healthy with the way Randy Gregory and
but that offense is terrible.
Yeah, but
right
they have so much talent,
is what's
and
really
if that offensive line is healthy, Like if the question is, can the Cowboys offense be good? Like, I think
That's
that's
true.
a slam dunk. But
Yeah.
like, if you told me the Bucks, the Chiefs, the Packers, the Pats, the Cards, the Rams, the Bills, the Cowboys, the Titans, the Colts, the Chargers, I'd throw the Niners in there, even the Browns at 35. Like, I know the Browns stink, but think about how we felt about them coming into the season. And if they're able to put everything
Yeah.
together and get the running game going, get that defense where it needs to be, like at 35-1, we could look back and be like, why weren't we betting that? That's
The
just
only
dumb.
thing I will say about the Browns, and I hit on this during the preseason, is they have possibly the biggest disadvantage of all these guys, and that's the fact that they have Baker Mayfield behind
Yeah,
them.
I mean, we were talking about Baker Mayfield winning a Super Bowl, and that's a big, especially against people like Tom Brady or Patrick
Yeah,
Mahomes, or
exactly.
going through these guys. Like, if he plays, if it sets up right and he beats like Ryan Tannehill and Mac Jones, then like all of a sudden he's in there and he's facing off against some random. But
Jimmy
like,
Garoppolo with the
yeah,
Niners, like
exactly. Like,
I
if
could
that's the
see
case, then
I
okay,
could see that being
maybe
a
I
good
could see
matchup
it.
for Cleveland.
But that seems like a big stretch. But
Yeah.
that number is compelling. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you smash that thumbs up, hit the like button, subscribe, do all the things. Let us know down in the comments your best bet for either Thursday or Saturday. And as I mentioned, we'll be back on Friday, and we'll talk to you guys next time.